we've talked about ivermectin on this show and how the establishment media has lied about it. The establishment media, which is owned, which is captured and funded by Big Pharma. Why would they lie about ivermectin? What do you mean they lied about it? Well, they said it was horse poison, right? So if you took that, you're poisoning yourself. And they made you think that it wasn't a drug for human beings, when in fact it was a drug for human beings, so much so that 3 billion prescriptions have been written for human beings around the world. And it saved millions of lives. And it won the 2015 Nobel Prize for Human Medicine, and it was considered a miracle drug before COVID. And so once I found out that they were lying about ivermectin, I found out they were lying about most everything they were saying. That's interesting, isn't it? Yes. So why would they lie about ivermectin? And because ivermectin is very inexpensive. It's basically free because anybody could make it because it's off patent now and you can make a generic. And so the Big Pharma doesn't want you to think ivermectin can treat anything. And so now they're trying to figure out if it treats COVID. So that was the big thing. The frontline doctors like Pierre Corey, and they were treating people and they were advocating. And the problem is you needed studies. You needed a study on the CDC recommended studies. People study ivermectin and how it treats COVID. The CDC recommended that. And the problem is, and I was in a study, by the way, I was in a long haul study, which used all kinds of that drug and all kinds of other drugs. So people are studying it. But the problem is you have to have a big enough study. And the problem with studying ivermectin is that only the people with the resources to do a big enough study are people like the government or Big Pharma, and they weren't really interested in doing one, and that was a big problem. Why wouldn't they be interested in doing the study? So now there's a story out of England. They were studying it. They're doing a study. This is how they're studying ivermectin. It started in like March of 2020, and it's going to go till like the fall of 2022. Well, isn't that when it's going to be endemic? Isn't it almost already endemic? What the F? Why is that study taking so long? They could get the vaccines to you in 90 days or whatever it was. I don't know how long it was. It wasn't a long time. But they can't figure out if another drug treats it for 2 fucking years? Isn't that interesting? What's that?
Isn't it legally to do emergency authorization? There can't be anything else that could possibly work.
So one of the so the vaccines in order for the vaccines to be given emergency use authorization, there could not be another drug that treated it. So that's just a fact I have to give you, and I can't attach anything else to it, or YouTube will take my channel down. And again, I'm not saying ivermectin treats COVID-19 because we haven't seen the studies yet. But here's the problem with the studies. Like I just told you, the only people big enough to do it. And watch what's happening. This is from our good friend Dr. John Campbell.
Ivermectin trial, part of the principal trial from a certain university in England called Oxford University. Now, let's just look at where this came from and try and work out what's going on. So this was the MedPage Today article, and this actually goes back to the 14th of December. Ivermectin arm of the principal study put on hold. Trial website cites supply issues. Now, let's just see how probable that would be.
So they're saying we can't get ivermectin to do this trial. We can't get enough of the drug. It's the supply issues. And he says, well, let's see if that's actually true. How could that possibly be? That's what he's asking. And here's where we go.
Now, this is Professor Chris Butler, who's the head of the principal trial, based in Oxford, from the University of Oxford's Nuffield Department of Primary Care Health Science, Joint Chief Investigator. Now, this is from the site. He says ivermectin is readily available globally, so how could there possibly be any supply issue with it? It just
doesn't make sense. It's available globally. How could it not? Okay.
Any sense? I mean, here's my personal supply that I got from suppliers. Well, this is Indian ivermectin. I keep this purely for educational, illustrative purposes, of course. But it's there. It's readily available. It costs literally pennies, a few cents, it's literally. I think I worked it out once. The World Health Organization are paying about 4 cents a tablet. It's essentially free, and can be produced in huge scales. As I say, this prop here that I keep, I suppose it would be useful if I did get strongylides or onchocerciasis, which is what it's prescribed for at the moment, agreed by the World Health Organization, but it's readily available anyway. That's the point I'm making. And Chris Butler, of course, says this. Ivermectin is readily available globally, so there is not a supply issue with it. Has been in wide use, again, Chris Butler speaking, on the website. This is directly from the website. It's been in wide use for many other infectious conditions. It's a well-known medicine with a good safety profile. Remarkably good safety profile, actually.
A remarkably good safety profile. Ivermectin has a remarkably good safety remarkably good.
Wait.
So if you listen to Brian Stelter or Rachel Maddow or anybody else in the establishment media, they will make you think that it's poison and that people are clogging up hospital ICUs because they're taking it, as opposed to what that actually says. It's remarkably safe medicine. Kurt?
I was reading some about it, and they said the worst case, somebody went blind because his blindness was one of the accusations I've seen about it.
It actually,
Yeah.
it actually cures river blindness, which is a condition. It actually cures that. All right, here we go.
A good safety profile. Obviously, we never prescribe on this channel, only take drugs prescribed by our own healthcare provider. And because of the early promising results in some studies, it's already being widely used to treat COVID-19 in several countries. So that was sort of Chris Butler's
So it's got a good safety profile, and it's already being used in several countries to treat that. So,
background statement there. Now, if we go back to this here, so this was the concern. And now it says here, ivermectin trial in the UK principal trial is currently paused due to temporary supply issues, according to the trial website. Now, I'm somewhat mystified by this, unless it's changed or something, because you click on the website there, and that's just a direct click link that we've done. And we find no talk of it here on the site. This is the principal trial website, help finding treatments for COVID-19 from home, which of course is exactly what we want to do, avoid hospitalizations if at all possible. Very laudable principle. Principle is a UK-wide clinical study from the University of Oxford to find COVID-19 treatments for recovery at home. And it's 9,000 participants have been recruited so far. This video here just gives you some, I'm not going to play it, just gives you some useful background information on the trial itself, who can join. Eligibility criteria, and then drugs that are being looked at here. So we've got Favipiravir, antiviral drug, and we've got Ivermectin, which are currently being studied. Now, have we missed something here from the news? So let's go into the news from the principal trial. And here we have the feature of a great success of this trial. Here they discovered that asthma drug budesonide is useful. Inhaled budesonide, a common corticosteroid, is the first widely available, inexpensive drug found to shorten recovery times in COVID-19 patients aged over 50 who are treated at home and in other community settings. Report to the principal trial in 1,779 participants. The drug is now available to treat COVID-19 on a case-by-case basis in the United Kingdom primary care. So that was good. But then we look on and we see, well, is there any news about ivermectin? So, well, here's their bit on ivermectin, but this bit actually hasn't been updated since the 23rd of June. So again, we can click on that, and we see that ivermectin to be investigated for adults 18 plus as a possible treatment for COVID-19 in the principal trial, and no change. So it seems to be still ongoing that ivermectin is being investigated by the Oxford principal trial. And again, we see nothing here of supply issues, no issue at all. Now, at the start of this talk, I said it's still in the trial, and the reason I know that is Chris Butler was kind enough to tell me that yesterday. I'm not going to say more in the email. I haven't got permission to release it, but he did tell me ivermectin is still in the trial. So where this has come from, I really don't know. Also, if we look at the registry of clinical trials here, we see principal a clinical trial evaluation treatments for suspected and confirmed COVID-19 for recovery at home, and that is all the information there about the trial where it is registered. So interesting where this story's come from and what it means. Right, so, and they say here, well, this is a direct quote from their site, overall trial status ongoing, recruitment status recruiting. It's just completely unambiguous. When is the study starting and how long is it expected to run for? Well, again, this is on the official registry of the clinical trial, March 2020 to September 2022. Now, disappointing that there was also going to take so long to come. And currently we're investigating these two drugs, Favipiravir and Ivermectin.
You see how long that study is? That's from March 2020 to September 2022. It's kind of disappointing it's going to take so long, but here we go. And here's the drugs they're studying.
The two drugs currently being investigated by this trial at the moment. So here's the Ivermectin, recognised approved drug by the British National Formulary for this rosacea condition with redness, strongyloides, which is the worm infection, and onchocerciasis, which is the one that causes the swelling of the lymph nodes, and scabies. So there you go. With oral use, ivermectin is unlicensed, but the drug itself is on there for British National Formulary. A bit curious, really. So now, quite a lot of pressure has been put on Professor Butler by various groupings to release data early. But of course, this is a randomised, double-blind control trial. So Professor Butler himself, as the trial organiser, doesn't know who's getting what drug. That's the whole point. He doesn't know, so it can't influence the way he influences patients, and so it can't influence the way he interprets the data. But strange that this story's come about saying that there were supply issues with a drug which patently there is no supply issues for. It's readily available. So there you go. It is ongoing. I think this just illustrates a lot of the emotion that surrounds ivermectin. And of course, we have to go by the science, which we have done several times on this channel. So there you go. We look forward with great interest to the results of ivermectin for home treatment because it's cheap and readily available and has an excellent safety profile compared to many other medications. We look forward to that. And the trial is ongoing. So it looks like we've nothing to worry about. Readily available, no supply issues, part of the British National Formulary. So quite why this, quite where this came from is somewhat of a mystery. So not saying anyone's right, not saying anyone's wrong, just saying it's a bit strange. But a lot of you have written to me concerns, so hopefully that puts everyone's mind at rest that the ivermectin trial is ongoing under the auspices of Oxford University in the principal trial.
Okay, so now you know the rest of the story. So there it is. Ivermectin, is it in short supply? Why would they say that? What's that come from? Where does that even come from? And we won't know, the results of this till September 2022. Anything?
Well,
go ahead, Kurt.
My primary care provider is a horse, so I ask him, I go, stomp 3 times if I should, if it's Fibavir.
So there you go, and I hope you nobody holds it against me that I sped up John Campbell's video, so it made him sound like he talked really fast. We're doing live stand-up comedy in Los Angeles on February 12th, February 18th, February 20th. We're in Philadelphia. We just added a second show, and back on February 26th here in Los Angeles. It's our intimate 60-seat theater. Go to jimmydorecomedy.com for a link. And then while you're there, you can also become a premium member, get access to all our stuff.